Hey everyone, Chris here from Walking Man Walks, back in the Philippines. My last day in Boracay. Heading back up north tomorrow. I wanted to talk about dating here in the Philippines. I've been watching a lot of videos, some good, some bad, about dating, about how old men come from the West to date young girls here, which is partially true. I have a young girlfriend, but I didn't come here to date a young girl. Actually, she pursued me when I got here, but that's a different story. Everybody has their theory why a young girl would pursue a guy in his 50s like me. But it is what it is. People are out there in the West, girls on like those passport bro channels will say nasty things about us, like we're just after young girls and they only want us for our money, and um, they just want us to better their lives. But isn't that true of any woman you date? Those girls in the West that say, you have to make $150,000 a year to date them. Well, wouldn't that be the same thing? But anyway, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend is not dating me for those reasons. She's sincere. We've been together a year now, and I think she loves me. But I do have a story about 4 years ago in 2019 when I first came here. I did date a girl younger than me in her 20s, and we met on Facebook, but I met her the same day that I actually took her out for dinner that night. And I probably moved a little too fast into that relationship. I would say that's one thing you really want to try not to do here, because you get with this young, beautiful girl, and she was into you, and she wants to be with you every minute, and you move real quickly into a relationship. So you definitely want to be careful with that. But anyway, we moved into a relationship pretty quick. Part of the reason I was only going to be here for 2 months at the time, COVID started while I was here, so I ended up staying here a little longer than that. Um, but I did get myself in a little deep with her. Um, so this is what happened. I started dating her. I met her family. Both her parents were dead. She was living with her aunt and uncle. Okay, let's go back a second. On our first date, she took her two cousins with her, which were both boys. One was a trans girl, and the other one was a homosexual, which was fine. I have no issue with that. But she did take them to dinner, and I had heard that that was normal procedure here. A lot of times girls are scared of meeting a guy from the West, so they'll take their friends or their relatives. So I took them all out to dinner to like a Mongolian grill type place down in Mindanao where I was, and that was fine. It's still, I think the four of us to eat cost $30 or $40, so it's not like breaking the bank or anything. So then that first night she said she wanted to come home with me. I should ask her cousin permission to take her home with me. And I did, and he was like, sure, I don't mind if you take her home. Just, be a good man. And sure, I was a good man. I didn't have sex with her that night or anything like that, but we did sleep in the same bed, and there was some cuddling, heavy petting, and kissing, and that type of thing. So then, from that day on, I was with her for the rest of the time I was there, but there was a lot of signs that I didn't see that I should have seen, that she was kind of using me. So one was that a lot of the time she wasn't around. I didn't know where she was. I was staying at my Airbnb in the same town she lived in, and I wouldn't see her for a day or two, and I'd be like, where were you? And she'd be like, oh, I was at church, I was with my aunt, blah 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 blah. Which naively I accepted those excuses. I did get angry sometimes, but obviously I didn't do anything about it. She would just come back, and I'd forgive her, and we'd be okay. The one big red flag I should have taken when I was there was that it was in February, actually on Valentine's Day, where I was expecting her to spend the day with me, and she was like, no, I have something to do, I promised my cousin I'd go to this dance with him, and and all this stuff. And so after, a day of back and forth about that, I was like, fine, go to the dance and I'll do whatever. And she sent me pictures from there and stuff. So, I mean, to make it believable, and I'm sure she did go to a dance, but looking back now, she probably went to the dance with some other guy. So, I think that was February. COVID happened. I ended up having to stay in the Philippines an extra month because of COVID. And the Airbnb I was staying at was a guy from New York who had met his wife, who was a Filipina in New York, but they went back to the Philippines at some point, had 5 kids. She went to high school in New York. Her father was a merchant marine, who they call Papa, who I know pretty well now. I stayed with them for over a month when I was there. And at some point they offered, they owned about 30 condominiums there on their property in Ozama City, and they offered me one of the condos to purchase for $20,000. So at the time I had money in the bank, just sitting there, so I thought this is a good idea. I could make this investment. I thought about it for a few weeks, and then even my girlfriend could live there when I leave and look after it for me. So that's what I did. I put $5,000 down, bought the condo, which I still own today, by the way. That ended up working out for me in the long run, but the girlfriend staying there became a nightmare. So be careful of this scenario. Don't do it to yourself what I did to myself. I went back to the US, back to work. Again, I still had my federal job where I get furloughed in the winter, and I work for about 8 months, and then I get furloughed again the next winter. And that's how I'm able to travel during my furlough, and now I've pretty much settled on spending the time in the Philippines during my furlough. So even though after I went through all this that I'm explaining right now, I still found the Philippines very appealing, a nice place to live. I love the weather. I love hot weather. I love hot, humid weather, I guess because I grew up in New York. New York summers. I've been in Colorado so long, and summers are just cold there. I miss night swimming. But anyway, not to get off on the tangent. So my girlfriend started living in the place that I had purchased, which was fine at first. She called me all the time. We talked a lot on the phone, on video, all of that. And then one of her cousins who went on that initial dinner with us had kind of a falling out with her over breaking her phone or something. I never really got the true story. She was pretty much a liar. He had texted me one night and said, listen, Shelly, which was her name, is seeing other guys. I think you need to know that. And it upset me, but I blew it off as something that he was mad at her about, so he was trying to get back at her, but I actually knew better. And this is when I really started questioning what she was doing over there and stuff. And because it was COVID, I couldn't go back the next year. So this whole time, she's living in my place. I was sending her a little bit of money, but not too much. But she was living in my place, which I was paying the mortgage on. And, she was seeing other guys later, I found out. And how I found that out is the most disturbing part of this whole story. About a year after this all went down, I remember because it was right around January 6th, 2021, because I was listening to all that was going on at the Capitol at that time, but I hadn't talked to her for a few days, and I get a call from her aunt, who I knew. I had spent some time with her and her aunt, and her aunt tells me she's in the hospital. I'm like, oh wow, what's she in the hospital for? I was worried about her instantly, even though I was very suspicious of her at the time. I was, worried somebody you care about's in the hospital. Well, her aunt wouldn't tell me exactly what she's in the hospital for. I'm like, oh no, she's sick. She had a lot of stomach issues in the past. But finally, a few days later, she calls me up and she finally confesses that she's pregnant. And it had been over a year since I've been in the Philippines, so obviously she wasn't pregnant with my baby. And besides, when I was there, I did end up, sleeping with her, but I used protection because she was always like, "Oh, you don't need to use protection," but I was like, "Yeah, I need to use protection because," and I'm glad I did use protection because she was a liar and she deceived me and everything, and I wouldn't want to be with her. The opposite of my current girlfriend, who I fully vetted and I know is not a liar and taking advantage of me. So anyway, she told me that she was pregnant, and I was like, okay, I need you to move out of my place. I'll give you, a month, 2 months, whatever you need, but start making plans to move out of my place. I had bought a big TV for the place and all this stuff, and that TV disappeared. She said she was going to leave it at her aunt's house. It might still be there. I actually haven't gone there to our aunt's to find it. I don't care that much about it. I don't really want to be involved that much with them. But I mean, I still see her on Facebook, and she likes my stuff on Facebook, and she's with the guy who got her pregnant and her baby, and I'm happy for them because I'm a forget and forgive kind of guy. But I mean, obviously, I'll never trust her again. Well, I mean, would anybody? I mean, it was pretty upsetting to me to find out that we were dating and she was pregnant, and I hadn't seen her in over 12 months because of COVID, probably 13 or 14 months. So anyway, this is my public service announcement to guys moving to the Philippines. Be careful of this. It could easily happen to you. Girls will get with you, and so this is the one big thing, and I've seen this over and over from other YouTubers. Like, she would be with this guy sometimes when she called me on video, and other people, her cousins, and she would tell me that it was another one of her gay cousins, which is hilarious, right? I mean, how many gay cousins do you have? There are a lot more homosexuals in the Philippines, I think, than there is in the US, to my calculation, but I'm not sure. I don't know the exact numbers on that. But I mean, how many gay cousins could one girl have, So even when she said that on the video when we're talking, I was always suspicious of it. And it was hard. It was COVID. I was living alone in my RV back in the US, working my job, but it was COVID, so I had almost no interaction with people at the time. Even at my federal job, we weren't allowed to ride in trucks with our coworkers. We weren't allowed to go into the office. We were just basically by ourselves working. I never got laid off. I was an essential worker, but I was just by myself every day. So it was easy to be sucked in to this beautiful Filipina that was calling me on video. But I don't regret it. I mean, it was a big mistake I made, and I'll never make that mistake again. I promise you, I am not making that mistake with my current girlfriend. But just so guys out there know, this can happen in the Philippines. It did happen to me, and I think it happens to a lot of guys when they first get here. It's hard to avoid that beautiful Filipina who approaches you, tells you you're handsome all the time, gives you all kinds of affection and love, which you don't always get from girls in the West. So anyway, that's my story about my first Filipina. But back to the apartment now. I have a family living in there. They're paying the mortgage for me. I pay almost nothing for it. The family, Pete, my friend from New York, who I bought it from, and Papa, his father-in-law, they take care of it for me. It's like I'm not making any income on it, but I'm not paying anything to sustain it either. So it's just building my equity. So that turned out to be, I lost some money when I was, not really, because I was paying the mortgage, but when she was living in it, and I think she had a bunch of her friends living in there paying her money, so she was making money off of it, which, I mean, I can't really blame her for that. She was at least enterprising. But be careful if you come to the Philippines. Don't jump right into a relationship. Vet the girls. The gay cousin thing is something you want to watch out for. I've heard that more than once from more than one guy. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is my gay cousin," and it's just some dude that they're sleeping with. Anyway, that's my public service announcement for guys coming to the Philippines for today. and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.